guess to start out, I started as a midfielder, and I was at Boys Latin, and I was in the 8th grade, and we had one of our goalkeepers got injured, and so Ridge Warfield, our coach at the time, said, "You had a brother that played goalie at Virginia. You got a goalie stick at home. Bring it in tomorrow. You're going to be the other goalie." And that's really how it kind of started. And so it's pretty miserable for a couple years trying to, understand the position and, accept that I had a new role on the team. And it was interesting because some challenges in high school, not being able to stay with a lot of my classmates who were able to progress to some of the higher teams I stuck on freshman one year that I got cut from the JV. And that was really I guess if there's a catalyst in my career that really got me, it really got me motivated to work hard and really figure out how to get better at the position, because no one likes to get cut. And it was a good thing. I learned from it and I got better from it. And I just kind of carried that into my rest of my high school career. And going into college, I applied to 4 colleges. 2 of them I got declined from, didn't get accepted. And I wound up actually at Hopkins kind of by default, because my first choice was UVA, didn't get accepted. Rodney Ruhlman was my idol. And, WNL already was loaded with goalkeepers. So I was between Maryland and Hopkins, and my brother was at Hopkins. I followed him down Charles Street, and we continued to work hard. And, the rest we were blessed with a lot of talent, great coaches, and the ability to figure out how to, in business, in the corporate world, they talk about success is created from 3 things. You got to have strong management, you need good employees, and you need culture. In the sporting arena, management's coaching, employees are players, and culture's chemistry. And that's the secret sauce that I think when we were going through college, we were blessed to have really, really top tier coaches. We had players, and they had the ability to kind of put it all together. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love it. Well, there's so much good info in that one little paragraph right there. I had Rodney Ruhlman on the show, by the way. He's a good friend. He's awesome guy. But kind of, just going back to the beginning. So they say you got a goalie stick, Mike. You're in goal starting tomorrow. A lot of kids, when they first start out nowadays, say like, well, how do I get? I'm scared of the ball. Like, it's just not this natural thing to jump in front of these shots with very little protection. So, is that something you dealt with? Were you, in those first couple of, you might even have said first couple of years, is that like a challenge you had to overcome?
Nah, not really. I mean, it just, if you can't accept it, I mean, when we came through school, the coaches taught us as we played to attack the ball. Mm-hmm. I think one of my weaknesses as a goalkeeper might have been I was a little too toey. I was a little too anxious, and that's something that I think if you got a guy like Larry Quinn or some of these guys that are so patient, their patience makes the shooter miss the cage. And but you can't be willing to accept the fact that you're going to sacrifice your body you got to step to the ball. You got to play the ball. It's kind of like an analogy would be, if you're playing shortstop in baseball, you don't let the ball play you. You play the ball, you go to it and play it. And we had a little different situation back in the day. Everything was grass. So you really got to go to it because you don't know where it's going to go. It could bounce in any direction. And it's a little truer today. I'm not saying it's easier. I wouldn't want to be playing today because they throw it so hard. I'm sure it hurts a lot more than it did back then.
Yeah, they really do. So then you're saying at Boys Latin, you go out for the JV team and get cut from the JV lacrosse team. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was talking with like a sports psychologist, and he said like a lot of elite athletes always have that moment where people like say you can't do it. And whether that's like being cut, like Michael Jordan, or literally someone telling them, hey, you're not going to make it. And they use that as inspiration. Did you kind of get that fire to kind of get better, or how did, getting cut like affect you?
Yeah. I mean, initially I said to the coach, you know what, I know I can make the JV at midfield. I'm going to just go back and play midfield. He said, nope, freshman team needs a goalie. You're playing goalie.
Yeah.
I said, okay, I got to do it. Yeah, I'm doing it for the team. But it was, it was a time when, I started to understand and work at, playing as best as I could. And it was starting to click better. And so my sophomore year, I went out for the varsity. I never played JV, and I made the JV team. And, I made the varsity team, but I didn't start. I was on the team, but I was a backup. But it was worth making the team and playing behind a senior, because, practices every day. If you're playing up, you're getting really good experience in practice every day. And I played behind, actually, as fate would have it, a fella who started for Boys Latin, graduated in 1974, named Bryant Waters. And we ultimately wound up meeting again in 1979 in the championship game.
Wow. That's awesome. Comes full circle. Yeah. So I was going to ask, so did you have any like goalie coaching, or did you sort of learn how to make saves just kind of by watching some of the older guys do it?
I probably had some of the best goalie coaches that, I'm sure there are a lot of great ones, but I had Willie Scroggs, who started his career at Hopkins, actually, before getting down to Carolina. He was amazing. Actually, I remember when we played in maybe maybe a freshman year, and STX comes out with that first triangular, very heavy plastic, and it had a wooden handle, and they were heavy. And a year or two later, or several years later, as I'm in, the sticks are getting a little lighter, a little better. And the first real lightweight plastic stick was really Brine brought it out before STX. STX had the first plastic, but the real lightweight plastic Brine brought out, but it didn't have the tensile strength in the head. So it was a little wobbly, but it was so much lighter, you had to use it.
Yeah.
And just had to get used to it. And they had the mesh that was not as firm, so the ball swam around more, and you couldn't get a handle on the ball as well in the pocket of your stick. So it had some disadvantages to it. But over time, with the technology and all, you find what you like, and you keep working on your stick and all. But the coaching, Jerry Pfeiffer, he had a kid that went to, I believe, Syracuse, played in the goal. He was a great coach. I get warmed up at halftime by Joe Cowan. So, it was well
coached.
At least I had a good shot at it. I got good warm-ups, and I had a lot of good coaches saying, make sure you're doing this or doing that. And, and then over the years, I would go and coach at Bob Scott's lacrosse camp that he had for 35 or 40 years at Gilman School. And we coached the goalies, and always like trying to help them understand how to play better position, play, just touch on a variety of issues, little things that even coaches don't think about, is just having a proper warm-up. Mm-hmm. is critical. I mean, a lot of kids get out there, the coach say they'll get a guy and take them to the field, and they start throwing at them. And then, that's not the right way to warm up. You got to have a routine. It's got to be consistent. The warm up is to get your head in the game as much as, to get loosened up physically, and getting your eye on the ball. Willie one time came to a kind of a funny story. He came to practice one day when he was still at Hopkins, and it was in the off season, and he's got it, takes us in the back gym and says, you know what, leave your sticks on the side today. We're going to play badminton. So, I mean, we did a lot of things, jumped a lot of rope.
Yeah.
But it was always fun, whatever. They used to let us play a lot of basketball. And I encourage kids to play multiple sports when I talk to them, because, basketball is going to help you in any other sport.
Tremendously. Yeah. I'm a huge advocate of goalies and just athletes in general playing other sports. Basketball helps you, racquetball or pickleball, that like explosive, reaction, even ping pong for that matter. Like any of those sports are really good for the hand-eye coordination and your explosion.
Played a lot of squash.
Yeah. Squash is great, is awesome. Yeah. What about like your style of play? Like if you had to kind of describe your style, when I go back and I try to find, Mike Federico, tape, there's not much out there. So I haven't been able to watch many games. The style obviously back, I mean, you played late 70s, early 80s at Hopkins, and the style was obviously the style of play of lacrosse was very different because of the equipment and just, some of the rules and how the game played. But your style of goal, like how would you describe kind of how you played?
It's my style, I guess, would be described as understanding that my primary job, it took me a little while to figure this out too, because I was fortunate to play my freshman year at Hopkins behind a great goalkeeper, Kevin Mahan. Kevin was fast as a deer, and he'd pick up a loose ball and be running down the field. He could have taken many shots, could have made some goals in his career. I can't remember, but I always wanted to be like Kevin because he could go out of the goal, get the ball. And I'd figure if you got the ball, they can't score on you. Well, you got to pick your spots. And one day I did it, and one of the guys, Joey Devlin, just blasted me. I didn't see him. And Ciccarone says, if you do that again, you'll never play here. And so I said, yes, sir. Got back in the little circle there and said, just, keep the ball out of the cage and run the defense. And I think, you might have a shot here. And so, but what I believed as far as my style of play was, I didn't play a high arc and I didn't play a real low arc into the face of the goal. But I actually, it's actually worth sharing, but a story about goalies and people that and I know. I was at I have 7 kids, as I mentioned, and one of my kids is my youngest daughter is a twin. She played goalkeeper. She was a goalkeeper, had a nice career at Johns Hopkins, and she said I picked her up years ago at rec on Saturday with her twin sister, and she puts her cleats up on my dashboard, and she says, and her sister in the back says, don't talk to her. She's really mad. I said, what's the matter? She says, you want to know what's the matter? Everything you tell me and everything my coach tells me, it's the exact opposite. And I don't know what to do. I said, holy smoke, this is bad. So I said, let's go down to the Hopkins game. They got a home game today. Let's get some popcorn or something, watch the game. We'll figure this all out. So I go down there and I see my good friend down there on the fence, and I go down to see him while I'm getting the kids some food. And I talk to him. He says, hey, did you see Billy's down the other end scouting the game? I said, Billy? He said, yeah, Teeny's down there. I said, daggone it, I got to go ask him a question. So I run down to the other end of the stands, run up the stands. I see him, and we knew each other from over the years. I said, hey, Coach, I know it's halftime here, but quick question. Got to ask you a question. The arc in the women's game and the men's game, is it the same concept in the goal? The goals are the same dimensions, everything the same. He said, identical. Why? He said, let me guess. You got a girl that's a goalkeeper. I said, you're kidding me. He said, well, I got Brianna and Trevor, and he helps her. I've been through this. So, I mean, but I guess your style, like to get back to that specifically, I always believe that a big part of it was just thinking about, being the ball. You gotta be one with the ball. So, you gotta be in shape. You gotta be fit. You gotta be in good condition. Like I said, we jumped a lot of rope. We did a lot of stuff, and it was just a matter of practicing, lots of wall ball, lots of good, working on your stick work, always thinking about what you were weak at and where even very little things. One of the things I see a lot of younger kids doing as they're in the cage is if the ball is left behind, they'll be standing right facing the ball, facing the pipe. It's right on the pipe.
Yeah.
And in my mind, you always want to be square with the ball and have one foot pretty close to the center of the goal. So if the guy drives lefty, you just move your left ankle to the pipe. It's one step and you got the pipe covered. If they throw the ball backside, you just pivot on your left foot and one step, you got the whole goal covered.
Mm-hmm.
And as opposed to, so now I see a lot of these kids are playing with the back to the ball and they just turn their neck. And it's tough to intercept the pass with your back to the ball.
Yeah. That's how I coach it as well. Kind of be like if the ball's back, back right, you're kind of like mirroring it. And like you said, then you're just one pivot away from hitting either pipe, depending upon which way the ball goes. So I like that style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But work thinking about, continually thinking about where you're missing, where you're weak. When my senior year, I know that before I started my senior year, I said, there's things I'm not good at. And one of them was I wasn't as good clearing the ball as I thought I should be. So I just worked really a lot on my opposite hand. So if I'm running and getting hounded by an attacker, I have to be able to make a pinpoint pass when I'm sprinting with my opposite hand. I mean, you can never stop improving. Once you stop improving, you're through.
100% agree. Yeah. And work on those weaknesses until they become strengths. Whether that's like a specific style of shot or like you said, clearing or communication or just keeping, the whole mental element of the game. A lot of stuff you could work on as a goalie. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, so it sounded like did you get recruited at Hopkins? The way you were telling the story at the beginning, it kind of sounded like you applied to the school and then kind of went out for the lacrosse team, or how did you end up on Johns Hopkins lacrosse team?
Well, when I was in high school, my freshman year, I played on the freshman team. My sophomore year, I was on the varsity as a backup. My junior year, we had 3 keepers that rotated. So just got about a third playing time. And finally, my senior year, I started on the varsity in high school. And I have a brother who was an All-American in football and lacrosse in high school. He must have had 6 or 7 scholarships to colleges, Virginia, Carolina, Bucknell, variety of schools, full freight, everything. He went to Hopkins. And I thought, since I didn't get into a lot of the other schools, I said, well, I want to be with my brother. I'll go to Hopkins. We just kept, working and trying to improve. And that's really what it was all about. It was always fun. When we played, everything was fun. Mm-hmm. We would play games. Our workouts were games, were contests. Everything was, they had an ability to help us understand that, if you're not having fun while you're doing it, why do it? Mm-hmm. And it's not that we weren't serious, but it was just that we were, it made it more, more enjoyable. And they thought if they're enjoying it, more they enjoy it, the more they're going to probably be better at it. And they just had a way to understand, to get you to, and they inspired you. They, they respected you. And Chick was a heck of a leader.
Yeah. And when you get there to Hopkins, is there, I imagine the level of play is a little bit faster, a little bit better, did your style change? Were you getting a lot more goalie coaching, or was it just, relying on some of the stuff that you had, that you had already knew?
I think, to me, it was really just trying to keep it simple. Don't make mistakes. Don't, play good position, continue to be, work harder and harder at staying focused on the ball and attack the ball as it's shot, not before it's shot, not after it's shot, but as it's shot, and try to control it. I mean, I think the real art in playing in the goal, as is, it's nice to keep the ball out of the goal. It's even nicer to save it and control it. And then it's really nice to save it, control it, and start the fast break. And, not every stop is a clean stop. We make some of them with their feet, and some of them with their elbow, and some of them with their chest, or our nose, or many other places. But it's always great to get your net on it so you can get it going the other direction.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That's the magic trifecta, right? Stop it, clean save, and then make a sweet outlet pass to start a fast break. That's what you're going for every single time. I love those. Thing of beauty. So you guys end up going, 3 straight national championships, 78, 79, and 80. What do you think, were those teams just stacked? Was it, a product of good coaching? Was it, all of the above, kind of what you mentioned at the beginning, the management, the employees and the culture? What do you think made those teams so great?
I think every year that we were in college, we had leaders, players that were, leaders. And I don't want to, I hope I don't leave any names out, but to share the ones that just stick in my mind, and in 78 when we won it, it was Mike O'Neill in my mind. And and a little tidbit about 78, we had a freshman face-off guy that took 18 of 21 draws against their co-captain. His name was Ned Radable. And if anything won that game, that did. 18 or 20 really. against the guy, the Cornell guy, who's a great player. And, we just, I think a big part too, Damon, of that whole year and that whole time that when we went through, obviously the 77 championship game down at Scott Stadium, I was on the bench most of the game. I did play the fourth quarter, but to be on that field and understand the feeling of the loss, you don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
And that was really one of the biggest motivational things, is when you're on a field, and we got beat very handily, and you just say, that doesn't feel good. Don't want to do that again.
Right.
And fortunately, in 78, we had some great leaders on the team, at Mike O'Neill and a few of the other guys that there's so many of them. I don't want to. Mike was the captain, but the next year, 79, we were fortunate and stayed healthy, and we had a set as co-captains, Steve Way and Dave Huntley, and they were great leaders, and they had an ability to continue to keep the team strong and just good chemistry. And then we had Greenberg and Bidney in 80. And those guys, Mark was probably one of the best defensemen I ever played. And Bidney was a kid who Chick actually is in his recruiting time, wasn't sure he wanted him. and God rest his soul, he passed. But yeah, Bidney gets the winning assist against Virginia in sudden death, and so pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. In 78, you win, goalie of the year, and also in 79, same thing. Is there, is that when you really start peaking in terms of like your goalie play, or was it, your confidence just started like coming in, and you were just really feeling on top of your game, or was it sort of a product of, the entire defense, or how did that season go for you?
I think it was a product of the fact that we had a lot of great defensemen, great coaching, and I never really looked at it as, whatever the recognition was on an individual level. To me, I just wanted to represent the school and make sure that we would go and do the best that we were capable. And, let the chips fall where they may. I mean, I think that when I look back on it, it was all, there was no, as there's no I in the word team. We just went out and played hard, played fair, but we didn't want to lose. We just had a really burning desire to win. And it comes from the top. I mean, Ciccarone, Freddie Smith, Schneidman, these guys, they just, winning's a habit. And if you pay the price and you work hard, and and you believe in yourself, you may surprise yourself. But we had a lot of fun along the way. I mean, it was a lot of great. To me, the whole thing was the friendships and the relationships that we've continued to. 10 of us were up at Rutgers 2 weeks ago.
Wow!
I should send you a picture.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've always said that, the relationships and the guys you meet, and just, what you go through as a team. I mean, one of the attackmen on my college team was my best man. And, a couple other guys were in the wedding party, and just guys that I still keep in contact with to these days. So it's an amazing bond, lacrosse.
It's really, it's been a great part of our lives. I mean, it's a big part of Baltimore, always has been. And it's a big part of, a lot of our relationships. My wife's maiden name is Halls. You might know that name. Pretty big lacrosse family from Carolina. And a lot of brothers played ball down there for Willie and those guys. And when they're back at it again now, they're doing great. And they were great in the 80s with a lot of other guys. But I think it's kind of like, it's a little bit of a culture. Lacrosse is, it's a part of life. It's just when you come up in Baltimore, it's not necessarily going to be baseball.
Yeah,
baseball's around, but we prefer the old Indian game for sure.
Good. I love it. When you were talking about leaders on the defense, you didn't mention yourself. So I'm wondering, was that out of being humble, or, was being a leader of the defense not a part of your game? Or were you that type of goalie, that was really vocal, really loud, really letting defenders know when they mess up?
No, I don't believe in that technique. My technique was more if a defender went over the head and got beat and I got scored on, I still got scored on. And I may say, hey, my comment would just be, look, let's get him next time. He knows what he may have done differently. But it's all positive reinforcement, constant positive reinforcement. And I think just another thing about that's important about, as you know, goalie play is being a leader, and you have to be vocal, but you can't be too much is not good either. So there's a kind of a fine line between, barking out directives, keeping your orders consistent. Everybody knows what you're saying. They're clear about it. And, they need us to do that because, they're focused on their job, and anything we can help them with that can help them do their job better. That's an important aspect of kind of helping connect the dots and keeping the puzzle in place, so to speak. So it's it's a very important leadership thing, but part of being a leader too is not even, a lot of times best thing you can do is not say anything. Sometimes it's the way you behave. I mean, if you're the last one to get to the field of practice and you're the first one off the field of practice, or if you're always complaining about something, I mean, that's no good. It's about understanding how you can listen to everybody around you, take the information, and improve the situation. It's very simple.
Yeah, great points. Absolutely great points. Yeah, leadership, it's a complex thing, and sometimes though it's not. Like just work hard and kind of lead by example. Especially that works really well if you're like a freshman and you're just getting started. And sometimes goalies ask me like, hey, it's like my first year. How do I show them I'm a leader? I don't necessarily want to be barking and ordering people around because I haven't earned any of that respect. Well, like you just said, Mike, like show up early, leave late, outwork everyone else, and you'll get that respect real quick.
It's actions speak louder than words, for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Are you still coaching these days? Do you coach lacrosse? Coach goalies?
I coached at the Bob Scott lacrosse camp for many years. And then I coached briefly at Loyola High School for the JV for a brief period of time. But over the last 20 plus years, from time to time, I've had many players that I'd work with just in a very short, go out once or twice or a couple times just to help them get, see what's going on and try to give them some suggestions. I might know their parents or might know their uncle or their friend, and they say, hey, I got this kid. He's, I think you could help him with some stuff. And I've always done that. I've always enjoyed it, but I think that the thing about the goal position that is really important again is that a lot of it's just keeping it simple and having the right mindset and believing in yourself and really, it's a lot to do with balance, having good balance and, just finding your strengths and, if you're obviously a bigger goalie, it might not be wise to be wandering too far out of the goal too frequently. If you're like Quint or one of these guys that's a little more agile and, they're faster, quicker, they can afford to run around more, but at the same time too, again, just position in the goal. I mean, by having good position, a lot of times either the ball is going to hit you or they're going to miss the goal. So that's something that it just takes work and time and practice just, so it's almost, you're not thinking about really almost where you even are in the goal when you're in the goal. You're moving right in your spots and, you can almost know without looking to your left where the pipe is, your elbow's just about a 16th of an inch away from it. But, it's all about practicing and getting into your routine and trying to have kids understand that as they practice, have a routine that they can consider part of their overall program individually where, they, there's so many things that go into it. I mean, whether it's, what kind of stick they're using, how long a handle that you use on a lacrosse stick because of making passes. You can't throw a long pass with a real short lacrosse stick. It's hard to. It's very difficult to. And, so you get, a lot of different things that you think about to integrate into your game to help you, ultimately have the best results.
Yeah. You mentioned the, having the right mindset, right? Sort of the mental side. It's so important as lacrosse goalies. What were some of the, when you think about your mental toughness or, your mental game, what are some of the lessons that come to mind that you would teach to, younger lacrosse goalies?
I think the biggest one is you're going to get scored on. Think about it, and learn from it and move on. I mean, you're going to get scored on. Mm-hmm. There's no question. And you can't get upset about it. You can't get pissed off about it. You just got to get back in there. Maybe you make a couple practice steps to where you might have stepped that would have been a better potential save, and get the next one. It's always, just go back and get the next one.
It's almost a cliche on this podcast. It's that next shot mentality, but it's so true. It's so true. It's a cliche because it is true. Yeah. Did you have any sort of routine that you went through, like when you gave up a goal?
Well, yeah, I did. The ball, obviously the ref gets the ball and you go back and you visualize exactly what you just missed and how you would make a motion to get back, and 4 or 5 times revisit that offside by your ankle, offside by your hip, offside by your ear, or 5-hole, or, right at your stick, whatever it would be, and make the step to the ball, get ready. I'd seen a lot of things over the years with kids that with their, technique, and it's kind of like, when I would try to help kids when coaching them, if they aren't doing anything drastically wrong with their technique, I wouldn't suggest they change their styles too much with, for instance, how they're holding their stick or thing, because if they're effective and they're doing it and they're getting the job done, but sometimes you can see tiny little things that will be, you say that's something that's clear. I remember one time Jerry Pfeiffer says to me, "Michael, you're on the pipe and your stick is way outside of the goal. Why do you have it way over there?" And I said, "Yeah, that's probably not," because it was a habit I gotten into, and just to lock my body against the pipe so I didn't come off the pipe. And I realized though that as my stick was there, it wasn't in a very good saving position, ready position to make a good save, offside. Mm-hmm. So those types of things you kind of think to yourself, just little things here and there, they all add up to making you have better results.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Especially, when you get to a certain level, it's not about redoing the goalie from the ground up. Like when you're a youth, you got to learn the basics and you got to learn your stance and your positioning and, how do you move to a shot, the save movement, you got to learn all that stuff. But at a certain point, like when you're working with a goalie, it's just about those little tweaks, like that story you just mentioned about, hey, did you know your stick is actually outside the goal frame? Doing nobody no good. Let's make a little adjustment.
Yeah, it's a lot of those. You see a lot of goalies, for whatever reason, sometimes will have their, you have your top hand next to the plastic that next to the head of the stick, and your bottom hand about hip width down the handle. And a lot of goalies, a lot of times their lower hand will have that arm, they'll have their elbow locked. And you just can't make an offside save with your bottom elbow locked. Yeah, well, you can, but it's a lot harder because you got to unlock both. I think both your arms, both of your elbows, need to be. It's almost like, again, playing shortstop in baseball. You're bent at the knees, you're bent at the waist a little bit. Your hands are in front of you, right? And you're ready to, attack the ball or pounce on the ball. And you got to have that, like, you got to be flexible. It's almost like riding a horse with your hands in you got to have soft hands. We used to teach the kids to throw with the tennis ball, because if you can control a tennis ball and your stick, a lacrosse ball is easy. Mm-hmm. It softens your hands up. And again, the more times you make the saves and you collect it and keep it in your net, in your bit, what do you call it, in your pocket, it's more valuable than, you don't want to give them those cheap goals where, bounces out there and they get the garbage goals. Those aren't so good.
Yeah.
You want to control it.
Yeah. I've seen some goalies kind of set up like that, where they're kind of like fully extended with that bottom hand. And that's one that I don't quite get. I've also seen some goalies sort of like overextend the top hand. And I had a goalie on who's in the pros. And what he said was he had this habit, like when a shot's coming at you, especially nowadays, like how fast kids are shooting it, like goalies have this natural reaction to kind of like shrink. You know what I mean? It's like a fear response, and your hands just naturally come in. And what he said was, my hand was always just naturally coming in when the shot happened. So if I put it out a little bit, by the time the shot was released, I was actually in a perfect position, as opposed to starting in a perfect position and then bringing it in even more. So it wasn't my style, but it really worked for him. And I mean, that's a premise of my show, is that there's different styles and they can work for different people.
Yeah. And there's no question. And again, a lot of it's by whether, how tall somebody is or how short they might be, or, what have you. But, the key is, like, you can see some people, if you go play golf, you say, boy, they have an interesting swing, but, they hit it long and straight, and, it works for them. So that's why I've always felt in coaching goalies, if they were stopping the ball, I wasn't going to try to change their style. I might try to say, it might be easier for you where you're standing if you think about standing here, because when you make that turn, you're almost already at the off pipe, as opposed to when you make it, you got two steps to get to that offside pipe, and it's a lot of ground to cover. Or, you're playing out too high on the arc, because once you step to the ball to save it, because you want to play a bounce shot right down near your shins. You don't want to play a bounce shot up near your ears, right? If you're too deep in the goal and somebody shoots a overhand bouncer, a lot of times if it's shot, it might come up to the top pipe. It's kind of tough to play it up on the, when you're addressing the ball. So, when you're in the cage, you just, if you're too far out, you can actually literally find yourself saving the ball and you're outside the crease. Yeah. So, it's all about being in good position and thinking about, where you want to be. And, but, I think that the big thing in the goal is really, again, it's the mental part of just knowing that, you're working with your teammates to do everything you can to keep the ball out of the goal as much as possible. Years and years and years ago, we had a belief that we would score double digits in every game. That was our belief. And we felt that, and we talked about it and said, if we just keep them to single digits, that math works pretty good. And that we believe that we as long as we can stay, keep the opponent to 9 or less. Mm-hmm. So towards the middle to the end of my college career, that was kind of the chatter in the defensive end of the field is, like, let's just hold them to, we're going to get ours. We're going to get our 12 or 14, but if we can keep them to 8 or 9, we think we got a good shot, because we didn't think other teams would hold us to 8 or 9 goals. And, we were fortunate to have a lot of great offensive players. it's interesting, but years ago, Damon, our coaches somehow found a way to attract really talented contributors. These were what I would call some of the finest players that were played in our program from other schools consistently. If you look back over the 70s, late 70s, in my freshman year, we had a kid that came up from University of Virginia, Willie Hazelhurst. He was a phenomenal defenseman. And he would take me out on the practice field after practice, and we would practice clearing the ball more and more. And my sophomore year, we had a guy that came up from the Naval Academy, Bobby D. Simone. And he was a phenomenal midfielder. And then my junior year, we had Scotty Balger, who came out of Manhasset at a W&L. And then my senior year, we had a guy named Brendan Schneck, who from the Naval Academy also. And, our coaches, I guess, had a way to somehow find these really good additional players that they could tuck into our roster that nice. wanted to be in a program that had a wonderful tradition and had a lot of fun doing it, which was was nice because we always had some Long Island guys and we had some Baltimore guys and we had some guys from different places around the country. So, but at the end of the day, it was all just about being team and having a lot of fun.
Yeah,
because it was fun. We enjoyed the game. We really loved practices. Were fun.
Yeah,
they were work and they were hard. And then game day was even more fun because if to play on Homewood was really something special.
Yeah, I bet. I'm on quite a run here of interviewing Hopkins goalies, by the way. So I interviewed Larry Quinn, who played a little bit 5-6 years after you. And he mentioned that exact same thing that you did about keeping them, if we could keep them in single digits. If we can keep them in single digits. So it seems like that as part of a defensive culture continued to Larry Quinn's team.
Well, yeah, Larry was one I'd always admired. Wonderful man, great player. He made it look easy. One of the all-timers. I saw where you had Scott on. Always admired him. It's great to hear a lot of the comments and the thoughts of some of the folks that I have to try to see if I can catch number 7's podcast because I always enjoy to know how much Rodney's given back to the game. It's wonderful.
Yeah, awesome. And then the other thing, so then I interviewed Jesse Schwartzman, who played, well after you, but he also mentioned that same concept. I asked him, his Hopkins team had an undefeated, they ran the table. I forget what year, but 16-0 national championship. I said, what was it about that team? And he said, just the practices. I mean, we would just battle and we would have fun. And our coaches would even say like, hey, like, you guys actually have to pull it back a little bit when it was a Friday, kind of going into game day weekend, because they were just going too hard. And when you can bring that level of intensity, on the practice field, you just raise your level of play when it's time, when it matters, when it's time to play the games. And it sounds like your teams had that same concept going on.
Well, yeah, we practices were definitely and it was work, but it's you knew what you were doing it for. You were going out because you were representing the Hopkins community. I mean, you're representing the school, and if they're going to give you an opportunity to play there, you owe it to them to do the best you can.
Yeah, love it. Awesome. If you had to go back and give the young Mike Federico some goalie advice, what would that be?
I would share with the young Michael that believe in yourself, work harder than anybody else, and most important, have fun.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. I read that your nickname was Piggy. Where did this? What's the story behind this?
Well, Piggy came back in 1968. We were my real, I guess, enjoyment activity was football. I thought I was going to play a lot of football actually, but when I didn't get any bigger and I wasn't much faster than anybody or even as fast as anybody, I would just somehow found my way into the creators game. So, but we were playing in the neighborhood one time with a bunch of the old neighborhood guys, the Dorneys and the Lacey's and Vince Fitzpatrick said, they give me the ball, and it was we would go to this field where there wasn't a house built, and we would play rain, snow, anytime. And I was, he kept giving me the ball and I would make it to the end and make a score. And one guy looked at me and turned to me and said, man, you're like trying to grab a greased pig. And it just stuck. And I would get actually in college test papers back. We had the blue books when we went to college, the little blue books where you write your essays up, and professors would write a comment on the outside of your blue book. And one of my professors would address me as Piggy, and my pop would call me that, but it stuck. And my father-in-law, Bert Halsey, called me Piggy. And yeah, it stuck all right.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. Well, Michael, thank you so much for coming on, kind of sharing your story a little bit. Who else do you think I should interview? Who would you like to see me interview as a lacrosse goalie?
I tell you, I think one of the all-time greats, a couple of them that I liked were Butch Hilliard and Ricky Blick. You know that name?
I don't know. I'll have to look those guys up.
You're kidding me.
No.
Well, Ricky Blick was either a 3 or 4-time first teamer.
Okay.
From Hobart.
Mm-hmm.
And actually Les Matthews was a great goalkeeper at Hopkins. Skeet Chadwick was a great goalkeeper, a WNL guy. Sal Ocasio, I guess, was the name I remember. And those are some names, yeah.
All right, that's a good list. I'll get working on that list.
Make sure you make it so it's, when you put it out there, you got the good snips in there, and you cut out all the stuff that, doesn't. I'm have too much filler words in there, if you don't mind.
No. We're good. This is a great episode.
I might get too emotional sometimes. That's just my nature, but.
You're good. You're good. Well, Michael, thank you so much. This is awesome. Yeah. It was great to chat lacrosse goalies with you. You're looking great. Keep it up and go Blue Jays, huh?
Well, they got a big task tomorrow, but I think Pete and his staff have figured out that number 10's the real deal, and in my opinion, at least. And I hope the kid and the whole team has a solid outing. I think if they play the way they're capable, I think they got a good shot at seeing Maryland again. And then, who knows? I mean, the ACC is loaded, but you never know. I mean, it's you get to the playoffs and you stay healthy. Anybody that's up in that level has a shot at it. If you don't believe it, you don't be long out there, But if you got to believe in yourself, you got to believe you can do it. And if you believe it enough, you'll do it.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. And if you get hot, if you get hot, it doesn't matter what happened in the season. If you're in the tournament and you get hot, or a goalie gets hot, I mean, that's kind of like the cool part about being a goalie is that, you've seen a lot of different examples of goalies getting hot and taking over the tournament. And so it's
Tillman Johnson, right?
It's a classic example. Yeah. Classic example.
Hey, I'm really flattered you thought of me. I was very fortunate. I had great coaches. I had a great close defense of Dave Black and Lance Schneck and Hazelhurst and all these guys, Greenberg. And I mean, names go on, but we were really to be able to go through a student athlete career that I was able to go through was, it's a dream come true. Yeah. So anyway,
well,
thanks again.
Yeah, absolutely. I consider
it what you're doing. You're doing good, man. You're giving back, and I really appreciate it. I'll keep following you, and I'm thankful. And again, keep doing what you're doing, because it's a blessing. It's always good to help other people.
Thank you. Well, I really appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, just kind of like you, my lacrosse gave me so much, and now giving back is just amazing. And kind of going back and interviewing all of these goalies, not to call you the previous generation of goalies, but I love it. I love it. I love just chatting with older goalies and current goalies, and just kind of building up this knowledge base that people who are learning the position can learn from, because I didn't have that when I was growing up, and I wish I did. So I'm kind of creating it now.
Well, actually, I don't know, which I got to go in a minute, but real quick, I just wanted to tell you, one of the things that's interesting to me that I see, like, and it looks to me like a weakness that's very characteristic, is how often you see when they're clearing the ball out of these guys, they don't draw the man. And so they're riding, and the one guy's playing two guys. And, this really making it hard on their defense to clear the ball. I mean, you got to redirect the ball, right? You got it right away. You can't hold the ball, right? I don't know. I mean, that's the way I think of it, is that, maybe I'm missing something, but I think that the more you can keep that ball out of your stick, better off you are.
Yeah. Well, the clearing game's a whole other, bag of worms, but yeah, I mean, if you don't have that immediate outlet, obviously there's going to be a 2-on-1. You find that 2-on-1, draw that person towards you, and then dish it, or keep going. Yeah. I'm totally cool with lacrosse goalies passing into the offensive zone and scoring goals and getting assists.
Take care, man.
All right. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.